Hi there, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about getting your horse ready for trailer loading, okay? I am going to show you some exercises that I like to do with my horse before I even bring them out to the trailer to teach them how to get on and off the trailer. Trailer loading can at times be a little bit anxiety ridden and sometimes also dangerous. So I am hoping that I can convince you to make trailer loading a regular part of your training program with your horse. So I've got my little horse Esprit here. She's only 4. We have done trailer loading training with her. She has traveled to horse shows and lessons in the past, so I'm going to use her to show you how I get horses ready to trailer load. And in our next video, we'll actually head out to the trailer and show you the process of teaching them how to get on and to get off safely. Okay, so we've got a few things that I want to show you, and we'll get started right away. So I want you, while you're watching this video, you may think that this is a lot of work just to get ready to go out to the trailer. Maybe I just want to skip over to the trailer loading, but I assure you that all the exercises I'm going to do today have other useful purposes as well, and I'll try to explain that as we go along. All right, so I'm just going to take Esprit over to this side here so you can see us from the side. Now, if you haven't seen my other videos already, some of my groundwork lessons, my lesson number 1 and lesson number 3, start to cover a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. So if you haven't seen those lessons yet, go back to my free video series and find lesson 1 and lesson 3, and you can practice those exercises. So one of the exercises in that video, we taught our horse to put their head down when we press on the base of the neck. So see how I just pushed a little bit on the base of Esprit's neck and she put her head down to relax, right? It's really important before you go out to do something new with your horse, like trailer loading, that your horse will relax their neck down when you ask them to with a simple little cue. So if they do start to get a little bit excited, you have that little tool in your toolbox to get them to just put their head down, relax, give them a moment to get their heart rate down, and then once they're calm, you can start asking them for more, okay? So Esprit is obviously nice and relaxed right now. She's really good at her relax button there, right at the base of her neck, as I mentioned earlier. I believe that's in lesson 3 in the free video series, okay? So we've got that. And then the next thing that I like to do with my horses is what a lot of people like to call the squeeze game, okay? So I'm going to come over here where I've set up my hula hoop, just so you can see that I'm going to stand in the hula hoop, and Esprit has to stay out of my space. And I'm going to try to direct Esprit away from me and to push her through these 2 blocks, so a narrow space. And one of the reasons why we want to teach our horses to go through the narrow space is because horses do tend to be a little bit claustrophobic. So when you get to trailer loading, you want to keep that in mind, that being enclosed in something sometimes creates some anxiety and even a little bit of fear in them. So you want to start doing little things like this to help get them used to it's okay to go through a narrow space. All right, so if you had watched my lesson number 1 in the free video series, we talked about the horses going when we ask them to go and to move off the sound of a kiss. So if I make that kiss noise and use my whip to get Esprit's feet moving, she knows I want her to move, and we're just going to point her nose through the blocks, and I'm going to ask her to move forward through them. She's clearly not worried about them. She wants to lick them, but she's got to walk on through. Esprit, pay attention, walk on. And so, like I said, she's got to go when I say go. So right there, she's just more distracted and wanting to be curious about the blocks and not move forward. That particular situation was just a spree being curious and inattentive. Now, if you bring your horse to a situation like this and they start to look a little bit nervous and snorting because they don't want to go through the narrow space, then what you're going to do is you're going to let your horse just take a moment at the opening. And the only rule here is that they would have to keep their nose pointed through the 2 blocks, and then you ask them to move through them. And since Esprit is clearly not nervous here, I'm just going to raise the pressure a little bit by asking her to trot and see if she can trot through the blocks. Good girl. So with a little extra speed, we go through the blocks. Then once she's good at that, I'll stop her and turn her around and see if I can guide her through the blocks in the other direction. Now the reason this is going to help you with your trailer loading is because really at the end of your trailer loading training, you're going to want to teach your horses to load up on the trailer by themselves. So if you notice, I'm not leading her through the blocks, I'm just guiding her through the blocks. So later when we go out to the trailer, we're just going to point Esprit's nose up into the trailer and ultimately have her walk up onto the trailer all by herself. That's the safest way to load your horse. So obviously when you first start, you're going to have to lead her up so she gets the hang of going on the trailer, and then work your way up to self-loading. So I'm just gonna have her trot again this way. Trot, Esprit. And she's gotta move when I tell her to move. Again, that's a lesson, a skill that we taught at the very beginning, lesson 1. She's gotta go when I tell her to go, and she should be pretty good about that. She's gotta stop when I tell her to stop. Good. All right, so once you've got that, and if your horse is like Esprit and that seemed pretty easy, those blocks weren't all that scary, you could come over, maybe do something a little scarier with an umbrella or whatever else you've got that's a little scarier than just those little cavaletti blocks. I would do the same thing. I'm just going to ask Esprit's feet to move and go past the umbrella and go through that narrow space. And because she's being pretty good about it, I could try to make it even a little bit harder by bringing the umbrella even closer to the wall and making that space even narrower. So she gets more and more used to some moments with kind of close quarters there, and that she's okay moving through a narrow space like she would have to if she was going on a 2-horse trailer next to another horse. You want to get her used to just that, having just a little bit of space. Okay, and then I'm going to turn her around. We'll just try that the other way. So this game is also really good way to get your horse ready for if you like to go out trail riding and you need to get them to go through a puddle or over a little bridge or maybe over a tarp or something if you like to do versatility work with your horse. If you've done this on the ground first, it'll be easier. The whole idea is not to lead the horse through, but if I were riding her, I wouldn't be able to lead her through. I would have to just direct her through while I was sitting up in the saddle. So if you do work like this, you're a little bit closer to being ready for that kind of work as well as trailer loading. Okay, so we've got our relax button where we press on the neck so she can put her head down. If your horse needs to relax, remember to keep it down long enough that their heart rate goes down because their neck is low. So that their heart rate goes down, they can calm down a little bit, And when they're nice and calm, they can learn and they can think, okay? So after you've got all that done, another really good skill to teach your horse is to pick up their feet when you ask them to. So I'm going to put Esprit up against the wall over here. And I'm going to start to ask her to pick up all 4 of her feet when I touch it with the whip. So the way that you would start that is you're going to hold your horse right under their chin so you have good control over their head. All right, especially when you're going to go and ask the hind legs to come up. You want to make sure you have good control over their head so you can keep the head with you so that those hind legs don't come at you. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my whip and I'm going to make a noise like this, and then I'm going to ask her, I'm going to touch her leg with my whip just behind her knee so that when I do that noise, touch her, she picks her foot up. Good, and Esprit already knows this obviously, so she's just going ahead and doing it, but if I touched her right leg, she pick her foot up, left leg up. So you can see that Esprit really gets that leg high up there. Good, so she's learned her Spanish walk. So that's another useful thing to teach your horse, because you can not only get them to pick up their feet to step up on a ramp or a step-up trailer, but then if you ever want to progress into teaching your horse Spanish walk and then eventually half steps and piaffe and passage, you've already got that basic skill down. So when it's time to do the back feet, you're going to, again, make sure you really have good control over your horse's head so that they can't kick you, okay? You're going to stand by the shoulder and you're going to make sure you have a whip that's long enough to reach that hind leg. So I'm just going to make a double noise, cluck noise, and then touch her hind leg until she picks it up off the ground. As soon as she picks it up off the ground, I stop the tapping. Try that again on the left leg. And I'd like her to pick it up, really up off the ground, and then I stop. Now I ask this, her right hind leg, up, up and a little bit forward. Good girl. And she's being clumsy. Pick left and right. And you can see eventually that will turn into teaching her half steps in the future when we want to start thinking about a little bit more piaffe and passage. But for our purposes today, we're asking her move off the kiss and move forward when I ask her to, lift her legs when I ask her to. Good. So there, if she's really well practiced at all of these skills, I can use those skills when we're out at the trailer. If she starts to get nervous about walking up on the ramp, or if you have a step-up trailer, then you can start asking her for things that she already knows, or your horse already knows well, and they calm down a little bit and start listening to you and start inching their way closer and closer to getting up on that trailer. Now, one other thing that I like to do with my horse before I head out to the trailer is to teach them to step up on the pedestal. So it's just a little step further from getting them to pick up their legs and to trust me to step up onto something. So for those of you that don't have a ramp and you have a step up, this is a good one for you. If you don't have a pedestal, if you have a sturdy mounting block, you could try to have your horse step on like the first step of your mounting block. Just make sure it's in a really secure place that you're not going to cause an accident. If you look over here, I have this nice sturdy pedestal that I like to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and Esprit likes going up on the pedestal because she learned how to do that with treats, but so she just goes up. But what I want you to show you, I'm going to put her back down again, is that you're going to use your ask with your whip for her legs to come up, and that she puts the leg up that you ask for. And the other thing that you can practice here is to see if you can use your whip to ask the hind leg to come a little closer. Yeah, so she knows that skill as well. So her hind legs came a little bit closer. Now, for those of you that do versatility training, you may take this exercise a little further to see if you can get your horse to stand up on the pedestal with all 4 feet. I haven't quite gotten there with the spree yet. Okay, so those are some good exercises that you can practice and you can work on before you head out to the trailer. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is if you go back to that groundwork, the lesson number 3 in the video series, and you practice your groundwork movements, like moving the shoulder, moving the hind legs, doing a little bit of the clock exercise maybe, just really getting your horse listening to you and disciplined and easy to move around. These are some exercises you can do if you're having trouble out by the trailer to get your horse working for you. If they start to say no at the trailer, that they don't want to go on, you'll get them working a little bit, and then you'll progress to the ramp of the trailer, where if they step on the ramp of the trailer, they can have a little bit of a rest. But we'll show you more of that when we go outside, okay? So as I have been mentioning, make sure, if you haven't already, you go to the free lesson video series and watch lesson 1 and lesson 3. You're going to practice those skills as well as the skills that I showed you here today, and see if you can get your horse really good at those things so that they feel pretty confident about it and that you feel pretty confident about it, so that when it's time to go do your trailer loading, you're one step ahead and you have some tools in your toolbox to help you make that a pleasant experience, so that we're not creating too much stress and anxiety. Okay, so go to the barn and get practicing, and we'll see you out at the trailer. Thanks for watching.